every time we communicate, we learn about ourselves. I really love this quote because it refers to how much and how important the self is in our everyday communication, and how every time we talk or work with others, it's an opportunity for us to gain more information about ourselves. In this screencast, this will be the third part of self and communication, and mainly we're going to focus on the stages of perception and also the ways that impressions are formed and managed. So we'll look at some of the most important theories regarding perception and how the ideas in our head are formed. Most importantly, what I'd really love for everyone to do is to pump out tweets, as many as you can, 3 or more. Remember to tweet about ideas in the lecture. Also, if you're thinking about test taking, you might also consider forming questions and forming essay and short answer questions to help you actually learn the material. Let's move on. What is perception? Perception is what is formed in our brain as information comes into our 5 senses. So information comes in, it hits our senses, and it helps us understand and interpret the world and really making sense of what is around you. And so things come into our radar screen and we perceive what's happening, and it helps us understand the world. There are 5 stages of perception, and these are the 5 right here, and we'll get into these right now. The first stage is stimulation. Again, something comes onto my radar screen and I become aware of some sort of stimulation. There's really 2 important theories when it comes to stimulation and things coming into the radar screen. The first is selective attention. And basically what selective attention says is that you will attend to those things that you will anticipate fill your needs or confirm or prove to be enjoyable to you. So we tend to see the things that are enjoyable to us, and we tend to block out, not intentionally, things that are unfulfilling to us. The next important theory for stimulation is selective exposure. This has to do with information that comes onto your radar screen, and what we do is we tend to select information that confirms our beliefs, our ideas, and what we value. So some sort of information comes at you, and if it's something that confirms our ideas or confirms our values, we tend to gravitate towards that because it proves satisfying because of that confirmation. A great example of this is an advertisement. If you purchase a computer and then the next day you're flipping through a magazine and you see an advertisement for that computer, your eyes will probably gravitate to it because it confirms what you believe. So those are 2 important theories for stimulation. The ideas too behind these 2 theories is to not only select stimuli coming in that confirms what you know or that proves enjoyable to you, but to really open your eyes and try to see and observe more that's around you. Moving on, stage 2, organization. Once stimuli comes in, how does our brain organize it? And how do we file this information? And basically the brain works on shortcuts. So all the ways that we organize works on shortcuts. The first is rules. Rules basically says that we have certain rules the brain works with that sorts this information. The first rule is proximity. Proximity is physical closeness. We tend to clump things together that are physically close. All those students in Hall 4, all the librarians, because of physical closeness, we tend to clump them together as a unit. Next one is similarity. Another rule is similarity. This means that people who are similar, we tend to clump together. All the jocks, because they're all athletic, we tend to clump them together. And then contrast is another rule where we tend to polarize people because of their differences and tend to look at them opposite of similarity. We tend to look at them as polar opposites, and we contrast them and we clump them in a unit that way. The next organizational rule is schemata. Schemata is your background knowledge. It's your existing template in your head that kind of guides you, and it's all the information stored in your head, all your memories. Your schemata is a mental template that basically all information gets filtered through. And so again, if you have certain beliefs about things, the information and stimuli coming in get filtered through your schema. Again, in terms of these rules, and schema, you want to make sure that you're not overly biased as information comes in, so that you can be open-minded to what is coming in to your head. The last one is scripts. Scripts is fairly straightforward. When we go into scripts, we talk about a sequence of events. So I go to the car wash, I pull up, I pay the attendant, I pull through the car wash, and it does certain things as I run my car through. If something varies on that script, I will tend to remember it more or perceive it differently because it didn't go by the script. You can think about anything in your day goes by a script. You get up, you go to class, you go to lunch, you go to your next class. But if your next class, the teacher isn't there, the script gets altered and it tends to be more novel. So script is time sequence. Stage 3, interpretation and evaluation. Remember always, and I'll try to speed things up, that the process is always subjective. What you interpret is always your opinion, and the more you can try to be objective about it, the better you are going to be. Memory. Memory is never objective. It's always stored in our head. It's stored through scripts and schemas, and we want to try to remain as objective as possible, but again, memory is never objective. The perception process, reconstruct what you've heard in a meaningful way that's meaningful to you. It's always good to kind of check your perception and reconstruct what's happened. Also, you can try to recall information consistent with your schemas, and we tend to fail to recall what is inconsistent with our schema. So again, if it doesn't fit into what we believe, we tend to discard it. And that's the recall stage. Let's look at these other theories, self-fulfilling prophecy and the primacy, consistency, and attribution theories. These are how impressions are formed. And let's look at personality theory first. And personality theory is when we clump together characteristics that we believe go with other characteristics. So he's tall, he's muscly, he must be athletic. She's slender, she's blonde, she must be fill in the blank. With regards to personality theory, there's the halo effect and the reverse halo effect. Halo effect has to do with positive qualities. Reverse has to do with negative qualities that we clump together into a unit. And again, idea here, have your eyes and ears open. And know that just because you see certain characteristics, that doesn't mean that we can make assumptions. Self-fulfilling prophecy. I love this theory. This is about when we make a prediction and then we act in a subconscious way to make that prediction come true. So, oh my God, I hate this class and I don't like this professor, is what you're saying to yourself when you walk into class. How's it going to go? And so really we make predictions about our behavior and then we act to make them come true. If you're not familiar with the story of the Pygmalion effect, I suggest you look at that as well as supplemental information. And so these are the stages of the self-fulfilling prophecy. And let's move on. Primacy recency. Primacy effect is basically first impressions are lasting impressions. What happens first? The first impression someone makes on me has the greatest influence. And studies show that we tend to form an opinion about another person within the first few seconds of meeting them. And so this is the primacy effect, that our perception takes off right away and forms a bias in some way about a person when we really don't know them. Recency effect, this gives weight to the end of episodes, and we use the information that happens later to form an impression of the entire situation. So basically, we take what happens last and we form a bias in our head. In presentations, we talk about these two theories because the introduction and the conclusion become very important. But again, you can't put weight on the beginning or put more weight on the end of an episode. You have to give weight to the full episode. Let's look at attribution. Attribution is when we try to explain the motivations for a person's behavior. So, he's late to class every day, so I attribute that to, I don't know, fill in the blank. And this is what attribution is we try to explain the reasons and motivations for the person's behavior. Obviously, here, what we want to try to do is not jump to conclusions. Maybe he's late every day because his watch is off, or because he's running from another class that overlaps, rather than just say that he's lazy and he doesn't care about school. We can't jump to conclusions, and you always have to take each specific incident in that way. And also, sometimes we think, is it because of personality, internal? It's because of something going on internally, his ADHD. Or it's because something external, the situation. He has another class that overlaps, so he's got to run to one class to the next, and he's always late. So internal and external factors become important. Perception checking, very important. This is how you increase your accuracy of what you're perceiving, and to check in to see if what you're perceiving is objective and open-minded and accurate. The first is indirect perception checking. Basically what this is you're thinking about what you saw, your own impressions, your thoughts, and you're analyzing them in an objective way. So is what I think I saw really what I saw? And you kind of do a flashback and run through it to check your own perception. Direct perception checking is actually done verbally, and we actually ask someone else that saw the same thing, did you see what I saw? And I put a meta messages in here, and it, you might say something like, here's what I perceived from the situation. What did you perceive from the situation? And by doing perception checking, it's actually an excellent way to reduce uncertainty, increase open-mindedness, and increase cultural sensitivity, and just become more accurate with what's coming in on your radar screen. Erving Goffman, a sociologist from the 1960s and 70s, said, all communication is a performance. Depending on the context, we're always performing in our communication. And this next section will talk about impression management. Impression management is controlling the way you are perceived by others. And so you really have an ability to control the perception of others of you by looking at some of these ideas. The first is affinity-seeking strategies. These are strategies to be liked. So you want to present yourself in a positive, comfortable, self-confident light, being cooperative with others, appearing enthusiastic, listening, back-channeling cues, appearing honest, open, empathic. And by looking this way, you can also look at how you dress, looking nice, looking groomed. These are all ways that you can seek out the affinity of others. There's also politeness strategies. These are actually just showing general politeness towards others. And you can look at this is looked at in two ways, and this is also Erving Goffman, where he talked about positive face needs and negative face needs. Positive face needs is how you manage your impression around other people that are positive, and you should remain positive as well. Be polite. Say please and thank you, as I always tell my son. Around negative face needs, this is when you see someone that maybe has more of a stoic or negative face. You want to be more indirect. You want to be less aggressive. You want to try to be open-minded and allow that person autonomy and individuality with their own face, not judge them. Moving on. And or not. The next strategy is credibility strategies. There's two types of credibility. There's internal to the person and external credibility. Internal is your charisma, self-confidence, how you look, very much connected with affinity-seeking strategies. Those give you positive credibility internally. The next is external credibility. What are your credentials? What are your degrees? What are you knowledgeable in? This gives you credibility to be believed by what you learn and how your hard work and your education, your experience. The next impression management strategy is excuse failure, self-handicapping strategies. This is self-implosion. This is when people decide actively that they don't want to be successful, so they do things that are not favorable to them. They don't turn in the homework. They decide to be late for work. They actually choose failure, maybe because of fear of success. And I think a lot of people can relate to this one, that maybe there's a fear of success, so we don't put everything into it. Self-deprecating strategies. These are when you want someone to help you out, come to your aid. You might often say, I just can't do it today. So you're kind of fishing for help from others. Self-monitoring strategies. These are interesting. Here's where you not merely present a positive image, but suppress your negative image, and you really censor what you say and what you do, and you're really highly monitoring yourself. And this helps you hide your faults. Again, the disadvantage here is you don't want to be present yourself as too perfect. Really, I would say is work hard and let who you are and your actions speak for themselves. And let's go to the wrap up. I hope that you got out a few tweets on this. We talked about the stages of perception and how perceptions are formed and managed. You can think about all the types of essay questions that could be asked on each one of these slides. And I hope you cranked out some tweets and you enjoyed the screencast on perception. Lastly, some questions to think about. How have your perceptions affected the way that you communicate? So maybe you can identify with some of the ideas and theories we talked about. And then lastly, consider the last argument you had with someone. Can you apply any of the perception theories to your argument, and did perception have anything to do with it? Hope you enjoyed the screencast, and thank you very much.